So welcome. Thank you very much to Green Doctors and the council. This is only a partnership between the council and Health and Fulham, and they've been looking, of course, because of the difficult times we're having with worsening health inequalities and how it is impacting on our local patients. So this is really a local presentation for us. And thank you very much to both of you for coming forward to present this, and thank you for making it interactive so that everyone knows. We're going to be using Mentimeter, okay? And I will put the code in the chat again. There'll be a link that you can use instead. But please do interact when the questions come up, okay? Because that really makes it much more. I did warn them that you're not very good at interacting, so please do your best to get Mentimeter. Okay, over to you, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Karim. So yeah, welcome everybody. Today we're just going to talk about health inequalities of living in a cold home. Just a couple of ground rules. If you could just make sure your microphone is on mute while we're presenting. If you've got any questions whatsoever, please feel free to leave them in the chat. We've got some time at the end to go through them. And yeah, let's just get started. So today I've got two speakers. So myself, my name is Jessica Chai. I'm the Climate Emergency Graduate Officer at Hammersmith and Fulham Council. And later on, we'll also have Carolina Castilla. She's a Senior Outreach Officer for Green Doctors who are working under Groundwork London. And for today, we're just going to go through, first of all, looking at what the health impacts are of living in a cold home, what is fuel poverty, how and why we should tackle fuel poverty. So looking at some of the drivers like the climate emergency, looking at why we should keep our health in good shape. And then the most important section at the very end is how you guys can help, because we know that patients put a lot of trust in you guys. And so raising your awareness of all of these issues and where to signpost them is really, really important. And then obviously the Q&A at the very end. So the first section, we're going to start off with a quick quiz to keep you on your toes. So as Karim mentioned at the beginning, if you could please log on to menti.com and just enter the code 25393390. Caroline is also going to put a link in the chat so that you guys can go there directly. But I would be keen to hear what you guys think are the effects of a cold home on health. So I'm just going to flip to the presentation now for that. So I'll give you maybe a couple minutes to get signed on. If there's any trouble, please do let us know in the chat and Carolina can try and sort that out. Yep, absolutely. Increased infection disease, moving around less, yes. Depression, yes, that is a major one, which we'll go into a little bit more information about later.
Yes, depression is very important. Usually no link with fuel poverty, but yes, definitely.
Yep. Trips, yes, definitely. Poor sleep, yeah. Death, we'll be also talking about the excess deaths due to cold later. Respiratory illnesses, of course, as we've seen with COVID, and falls, yep. You guys are completely on it, as expected. You guys probably know way more about this than me. But yeah, wonderful. Malnutrition, lethargy, yeah. Cool, so I think I'll leave it there, but please do keep your Menti open because we've got another question in a couple of slides later. So if I go back to presenting from the current slide, so you guys pretty much hit all of these. So yeah, increased chances of circulatory conditions like blood pressure, heart attacks and stroke, worsened respiratory conditions, so asthma, like my sister, she has really bad asthma, and during winter she always has to take a couple more puffs of her inhaler. Some of you guys said falls, so definitely there's higher risk of falls and accidents, especially for elder people. Depression, high levels of anxiety, and that's because it's usually related to the fact that a lot of people can't afford to heat their homes, and so it just leaves them in a very bad mental state, not being able to afford, you know, keeping their home nice and comfortable, and just adding to their list of worries. So yes, it exacerbates existing medical conditions and can affect children's cognitive development as well. So all of that can then lead to more excess deaths. So some of sorry, as some of you guys have pointed out. So there's a couple of statistics I have here. So the National Energy Action estimates that's about 10,000 deaths each year due to a cold home. There's also additional pressure on the NHS, of course. So there's more patients being admitted, especially during winter. So as you've seen with especially COVID, the number of admissions probably rise towards winter. Increased costs as well for both your patients who have to heat their home, and then also on the NHS. So preventable illnesses from underheated homes probably cost NHS England around 1.36 billion per year. And if we were to divide that further, looking at the worst affected properties, so those would be in private tenanted homes that are rated EPC F and G, they cost the NHS £35 million per year. So we know there are particular groups that are more likely to be vulnerable to the effects of a cold home, particularly those who are of lower income or have an existing vulnerability. And these characteristics are often classified, or at least found common with those that are fuel poor. So now I just want to do a very quick introduction to fuel poverty in case they've never come across it before. I know I never did until I started this job. So going back to Mentimeter, if you could, I just want you guys to put some keywords about what you think fuel poverty is, what you think the definitions are. So you might have to click next question on your Menti browser page. Well, so yeah, unable to afford heating, definitely. Having to choose between fuel and food, yes, that's a horrible, horrible feeling. Insufficient money to spend keeping warm and cooking, yep. Yes, unable to afford gas bills. As we've seen recently, the price of gas has absolutely just shot up during this energy crisis, and a lot of energy companies have ended up going bust. You quite commonly find that these energy companies are those serving those who are fuel poor and managing to keep their prices low for them. So yes, the official definition of fuel poverty changed a couple years back. So before, it was based upon the amount being spent on fuel poverty as like a percentage of your income. So if you were spending more than 10% of your household income on your heating bills, then you were considered to be in fuel poverty. But now they use a low income and high cost indicator, which is defined as required fuel costs are above average, and were they to spend that amount, they would be left with residual income below the poverty line. So there's three main criteria of those that are in fuel poverty. There's the household income, the household energy requirements, and also the fuel prices. So a couple of stats on that to give you a bit of an idea. In 2019, approximately 3.18 million households were considered to be in fuel poverty in England, and we are expecting the number of households to rise because of the energy crisis and because of COVID. So that's just one reason why we should be aiming to tackle fuel poverty. Just wanted to give you a couple more drivers from the council's perspective. In 2019, we declared a climate emergency, and we set ourselves an ambitious goal of net zero for 2030 for the entire borough. So we need to make sure that when we engage with everyone and bring everyone on board, we need to make sure it's fair and socially just. So that means those that are in fuel poverty, making sure that when we do retrofit their homes or change it to electric, that they can afford it, and ensuring that their homes are warm and comfortable as well. And then, of course, a driver for the NHS, you guys have your Green Plan, and if we were to act on fuel poverty, it would help these particular 4 targets that I've ringed in red here. So cleaner air, so there'll be less patients travelling in. Also, if we were to change their boilers into renewable heat sources, so like using an air source heat pump or ground source heat pump, there'll be less fossil fuels being used. So there's also reduced energy usage, increasing energy efficiency, making sure that they are changing their behaviors at home as well. So turning off all of the switches, using LED light bulbs. And of course, there'll be less energy used in the hospitals because less patients will be admitted. There's also sustainable medicines. So we are reducing the amount of equipment because there's less patients going in again. And if we can reduce the number of people that are getting respiratory illnesses or infections, then we can reduce the amount of antibiotics being used. And then number 8, innovative care. So it's making sure that you guys give patient-centered care that is preventative and closer to home. So with the fuel poverty, by directing them to sources of support, then you're treating the source of the issue, meaning that you're helping address the cold home aspect in a preventative manner. And yeah, just a couple of additional drivers. So making sure that your patients, our residents, are in warm, comfortable homes that is affordable so that they can have better health and well-being. There will be less pressure on NHS resources. As you've seen from the stats before, it's incredibly expensive during winter especially. Less pressure on yourselves as NHS staff, and also it's saving money for both the residents and NHS. So this is the most important section because we want you guys to know all about the support that's available and the grants especially that you yourself could apply for if you're eligible, or you could recommend to your patients if you identify them to be in fuel poverty at the moment. So we'll start off with the Green Homes Grant. This isn't the voucher scheme. This is the local authority delivery scheme, and this is issued by the local authority. So the eligibility for this is about, I think it's for low income households, it's less than 30,000. If they get an income of less than 30,000 a year, and are living in an EPC rating of D or below for their property, then they are eligible to get some energy efficiency measures. So this can include insulation for like cavity walls, external wall insulation, your loft, your underfloor, your roof. You can also get renewable heating systems, so air source heat pumps. Windows, like if you've got single glazing, you can upgrade them to double glazing, and energy efficient doors. There's a lot of measures available here. All it takes is a phone call to the Green Homes Grant. To Green Doctors, who Carolina will speak about later. And then they'll do all the work and you get a survey around and they come up with a plan to see which measures are suitable for you. So if you're in an owner-occupied property, then 100% of the measures are funded up to £10,000. You aren't expected to make any contributions whatsoever. If you are a private tenant or a social rented tenant, then you're eligible to get up to £7,500 of works. The grant will provide 2/3 and the landlord will contribute the remaining 1/3. Another scheme that I want to make you aware of is the energy company obligation. This kind of works a bit similarly to the Green Homes Grant, except this is given out through energy suppliers. So it's mainly focusing on insulation again, so cavity and loft insulation, and also the repairing of boilers, or if you've not had a central heating system before and you're still working off of like fossil fuels, so like coal, oil, boilers, things like that, you can get a first time like gas boiler. So the general eligibility criteria for this is for owner occupiers and private tenants, it's means tested benefits. And for social tenants, it's an EPC E, F and G. But the councils that the patients are residing in, they might offer flexible eligibility. So for example, Hammersmith and Fulham, we do this. We offer Eco Flex is what it's called. And you can see on our website for the statement of intent, and they'll expand on the eligibility criteria to make it more accessible to more households. I'll show you a little bit more. So this is the page for Hammersmith and Fulham patients that you can direct them to, or even yourself if you live in the borough, called Energy Initiatives. You can find all the information here. So there's Eco, the flexible eligibility criteria can be found there, so the statement of intent. And then if you would like to apply, there's a list of installers below that you can refer to, or you can call any large energy supplier that may do the grant. It doesn't have to be your supplier. And of course, there's also the Green Homes Grant information here. And at the bottom, we've got a little section on green doctors, who Carolina will now tell you all about. I'll pass over to you, Carolina. Thanks.
Thank you, Jessica. I just shared the link. However, we will be sharing as well the presentation with all of you through Karim, so you will have all the information. Amazing, the presentation, thanks a lot. I am going to be explaining you about the Green Doctor service. We are the service that provide really the face-to-face, so let's say one-to-one support to the residents in Hammersmith and Fulham, in another boroughs as well. As Karim said, most of you new with this information. The Green Doctors are part of the charity called Grand World London, and the service has been running for around 15 years. So you can see in the picture some of the Green Doctors who are working with us at the moment. The idea of the service is to help the most vulnerable residents across London to save money, just to stay warm and improve the energy efficiency in the houses. We work, like in the case of Hammersmith and Fulham, with council, housing associations. We work as well with the NHS a lot, for example, with the social prescribing link workers in the different areas that they are doing an amazing job, with the small organizations, groups that have been formed, for example, during COVID-19, so you name it. And feel free, of course, if you think that you know organizations or community group that will benefit from our support, to pass this information to them. At the moment, we are doing a hybrid model, so we are finishing, the pandemic, and we are trying to come back to our face-to-face sessions with the residents, but I will explain this in a minute. We can go to the next slide, Chef. So the aims of our service, we always say that we have a holistic approach, how we help residents to tackle fuel poverty and live in an affordable warm home. The best part is to, and of course links a lot with the work that you are doing, is to improve the health of the residents and to explain and to talk to them about the negative impacts to living in a cold home for a long period of time. And with that as well, we try to teach residents in how they can pay less but still living in a very comfortable warm home. So the idea is that they take all these tips and they change how they behave in terms of using energy in the future. So this is very, very important for us. These two things together lead to help residents to income maximization. And we are, in some cases, talking about residents that we are helping that really are in a very, very tight budget. So all the money that they can save to use for other things, it's very important. Next slide. So what is available? Our service gives residents free energy advice, and is really one-to-one support. So our advice will be based in the needs of this specific household who is referred to that. I'm going to name some of the things for you to understand what support we give. So we try, of course, to reducing the cost on switching provider or tariff. At the moment, I have to say, during the crisis, and because the price of the fuel is very high, it's not the best option maybe right now, but we still explain to the residents why it's important to, have a look and shop around in the different tariff, what kind of tariffs there are in the market, what happens if the resident is paying a standard tariff that is the highest tariff in the market. So the energy advisor will go through all this process with the residents. As I mentioned before, we share with them energy saving tips to encourage behavior and change to the residents, like will be the temperature that people use the dishwasher and the washing machine, how you go around when you use the kettle, and depends again if it's a family with kids or elderly people. We will tailor the tips independent on how they use the energy in the house. We help residents to navigate discounts that are already set by the government or for different organizations or suppliers that maybe they are not aware of. One of the most famous one in that autumn and winter is the warm home discounts that give one off payment of £140 in the electricity bills. So, and unfortunately, how we set up the system now, every year the resident, unless a couple of exceptions, and every year the residents need to apply, we help to apply for that. Will be possible, for example, to have some discounts with water help or water sure. For example, if you come across residents that for any health condition, they need to use a lot of water, they can be entitled to one of these discounts. So again, we help them to know what is available, and we help them to apply as well. A priority service register is another thing that we help residents a lot with, and links in some way to be a little bit of peace of mind for the residents, but I will talk about that in a minute. If we can go to the next slide. So other advice that we give, we explain residents about smart meters, the benefits of smart meters, so people don't need to send the meter readers to the provider, mostly again for people, you know, living alone with learning disabilities, elderly people that they cannot reach the meter reader easily. So we explain this as well. And we help residents that they have debt with gas, electricity, and water. And this is as well, you know, it's generate a lot of depression and anxieties to household when they have debt with gas, electricity, and water, and, you know, receiving this very nasty letter in the houses. So we help them, could be to speak with the energy supplier to find a better way to pay, or in some cases to apply for a grant that will write off the debt of the resident. And this is very, you know, life-changing for some of them. Of the residents. We help, Jessica mentioned something of that, to apply for larger grants and to see what other schemes are available. For example, we help a lot with boiler replacement, and in some cases, you know, maybe you have some of your patients that they have been living for a long period of time with that boiler, so we help that as well. If they need insulation, and yes, we help to navigate and to see how is the better way to apply for these schemes. We give free energy measures to residents. If we are doing a face-to-face visit, we install the measures. If we are doing over the phone, we send the measures to them. Could be LED bulbs, radiator panels, for the winter, shower heads, and other things depending of the season. And I mentioned at the beginning, we try to have a service who is a holistic approach. So we make residents more connected with the local community. If there is something who is disclosed to our energy advisor during the session, and we cannot help to name some of the things, people that don't have food, or people who is feeling lonely and like to maybe find an organization who do a befriending activity, or people who has problem with the benefits, or people who has debt with the rent, and we cannot support with that. If they agree, we signpost them to other local organizations. I mentioned as well, we've been running this survey for 15 years, so we have very well connections with different organizations in the different boroughs. Next one. I mentioned about the priority service register. Maybe some of you heard about this register before. This is it's a free register that all the energy suppliers they need to have by law, and meaning that they will know where is living a vulnerable resident, or which household has a vulnerable resident living there. It's usually a core criteria, and some energy suppliers has a bigger criteria. People in pensionable age, disabled or chronically ill, people with long-term medical condition, people with hearing or visual impairment, and families with children under the age of 5. But for example, some companies, the people can be under the register if they just lost a member of the family, or if they are not employed, so you know, they are having a bad time and depression, so they can help as well. So there is a lot of support when you are under this register. One of the things that we mention a lot, that in the case of a power cut, or there is a problem with the water supplier, this will be a flag, will be a red flag in the database of the provider. So they will contact this resident before that anybody else, to see that how they can support. Could be giving interim cooking facilities, could be moving to a temporary accommodation for a couple of days. So they will go through the options. For example, in the case of patients that they need a medicine to be in the fridge, so as well they help with that. They can as well help to sending somebody to take the meter readers. They can name a third person to help with the energy bills. So there is a lot of support. And in my experience, what the residents tell us when we spoke with them, that usually they are very happy when they are in this register, because they have like the peace of mind that they know that they will be supported, and usually is how these things happen. Next one. So we offer, again, a free service. We offer the service on behalf of the council in Hammersmith and Fulham. There is eligibility criteria. So means that one people in the household need to meet this criteria. Usually there are more than one criteria covered when somebody is referred to us, but we help everybody who is fuel poor, so is having high energy bills and struggling to pay, or in low income, so are there 50,900 per year, or in receipt of any means of tested benefits, and or usually, like I said, there are more than one of these, with a long health condition, people with disability, people who is 65 and over, pregnant ladies and low income, household with children under the age of 5, young people between 16 and 25 on low income as well. Next one, next slide. So to refer a resident is very easy, and the good thing is we accept referrals for partner organizations. Again, it will be for a GP, a nurse, a social prescribing worker, or for any other organization, but we as well accept self-referrals, so the residents can refer themselves. And we know that everybody is very busy. Well, you guys in the NHS more than all of us, I think. So we like to make the things very easy. If you are with the client, with the patient, and you like to refer, we have our online form that takes less than 2 minutes to fill. It's a very, very easy form. We have a free telephone number that people can call us right away, and an email as well that we can accept referrals. The quickest way is the online referral pathway. And our website as well, where you can find more information. And the important things, like I mentioned, we are coming back to our face-to-face visits. So the Green Doctors will visit the residents. The appointment is booked in advance, so they will know. Our help desk will call them, and they will know when the appointment will be taking place. And we have a very strong risk assessment to be sure that the residents and the energy advisor are covered during the last part, I guess, of the pandemic. We can do as well consultations with the translator in any other language, or with a British Sign Language as well, that will be video call. And if there is a third person, a carer or a family member who like to take part of the consultations, we can do that as well in a 3-way call. Next slide. So what we can ask for you, what we think that, the NHS that, is playing a vital role right now can do, is to be more aware of the issues that people experience for living in a cold home. You are the experts, already that. Reassure the patients that there is help available, and by signposting them to the Green Doctor service, or to the help available through the council website. So this is very important, because you are very trusted with the residents, with the patients. So this is very good. And I always say that we help a lot of people who are in debt and having very, very bad time with their bills. But if you have, I don't know, an elderly person who living alone in a big house, I don't know, somebody maybe 70 years old, and people doesn't know exactly how much they are paying, how they are covering the bills. So please feel free to refer them to us as well, because they meet the eligibility criteria. And the idea is to help as more residents as possible. And as well, because we are helping people to spend less energy, as Jessica mentioned, it's going to as well to help to the emissions and to the climate change. So you can as well encourage vulnerable patients to have our support. If they don't like to be referred, maybe hanging a flyer or write it down the telephone number where they can contact us. And I'm pretty sure you are very good with that. Sometimes it's good to read underline, to ask questions, or when people is saying, I haven't had a hot food, a hot meal for 2 days. So to ask things like, are you struggling to keep your warm home? Are you concerned about your energy bills? Or, these kind of things that are very important. I mentioned something at the beginning as well, and you in some of the thing about depression. We usually don't link problems with fuel poverty and mental health issues, but unfortunately it's a very strong link. People get more isolated and do less activity, so it's something as well to take into consideration. And thank you, it's everything I think for me.
Yep. So we can move into the Q&A section. So I'll stop sharing, and if there's any questions in the chat, we can.
Yes, there is one question in the chat that I don't have the answer. I don't know, Jessica, if you have. It's Jeremy asking, how does the UK percent in fuel poverty compare with, for example, Germany or Denmark or Canada or other cold places?
Oh, that's a good question. I actually don't know how we compare to other countries. I know how we compare by borough in London. So unfortunately, I can't answer that right now, but I'm happy to do the research and get back to you later. The only statistic that I have for other countries, I think, is, let me just try and find this. I think it was related to Sweden. So yeah, people in the UK are 23% more likely to die as a result of winter conditions than people living in Sweden. So maybe we could also use that as an indication for the number of people that are in fuel poverty in England compared to Sweden. But yeah, if you want to leave your contact details, I'm happy to find out for you. Oh, okay, that's fine. Thanks for the question, though. It was a great question.
Quite right. We're doing quite badly compared to many European countries.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But I mean, if you look at our housing stock that we have here in England and how old it actually is, it's very, very difficult, and it'll be very costly. But also, would it be easier to compare with Scotland? It would be. Again, I'm sorry, I don't have the exact answer to this one either. I only have the London statistics on this one. So yes, all boroughs do offer similar services. So following this presentation that we've got, I've got some resources that I've given to Karim. So if Karim could distribute them. I've done some tables for fuel poverty services available in the west half of London. So we'll have all the lists of the grants along with the description of what they are, the eligibility criteria, the contact details, and they're available for all of the western boroughs. Happy to do the eastern side as well. It will just take a little bit of time to compile, and then I can send that over as well if you're interested.
Yes, Scotland is a bit colder than England, so that might be a bit of a bias. But this is where Dr. Boyle, I see, he's put that there. But it's really important for our discharges. Discharging patients, obviously, is something to think about. That might be a time when we could ask the question.
Yes, and of course, well, again, you know better than us, but the NHS is every winter overwhelmed because people go into hospitals, to GPs, due to problems related with living in a cold home. So yes, I think every little help will help residents and the NHS as well.
Yes, and Doris has commented that in Germany that there's a lot of solar panels and things installed. I think we're starting to see that happening here.
Yes, this is something that we are trying to get more of. There are schemes like Solar Together. Hammersmith have got that at the moment. So it's almost like a cooperative. So many residents can sign up to go for Solar Together and see which supplier basically will do the solar panels for the cheapest price, and then they vote on that, and then they go forward with the program. I think the issue with England is our planning is quite strict. So a lot of areas, especially in London and Hammersmith and Fulham, the conservation area does pose a bit of a barrier.
Yes, and we should make sure that people are aware of those grants. I mean, that's clearly what you were talking about, and just make sure they access them. That's really key, isn't it?
Yes, for sure. So the Green Homes Grant also offer solar panels and solar thermal as well, if anyone's interested.
So this is a question. We ask about how they manage their bills and general questions about home environment, as well as asking families for the nursery. We're kind of about heating issues, and like a question then is really whether you can advertise this to those individuals who might benefit.
Sorry, I didn't quite get that. What was the question?
Say again.
No, it's just there's a comment here from Frailty, the Frailty team, who obviously have a lot of people in exactly this category. And we would see, because when people come in with falls and then with some medical problem, and once they're better than that, to get them home, if they are frail and can't walk and they're likely to fall over, they have all these other issues that you're talking about. And the Frailty team obviously ask these questions. They put them in the chat there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, many still don't have central heating. Yes, that is true. So there are grant funding schemes available to combat that. So if you've not had first-time central heating before, you can go through the energy company obligation. The details are on the slide and also in the tables that will be sent out after this. There is also a new scheme coming called the Home Upgrade Grant. At the moment, councils are bidding for this so they can distribute it to their residents. And this is specifically targeting those that are on old systems of heating. So if they've got really, really old storage heaters, or if they've had no central heating whatsoever, they can apply for that. And it is again aimed at those that are vulnerable in fuel poverty. So that's something to look out for in the future. And when councils get the funding, they'll start all the comms and everything.
One thing as well I like to mention, I'm available if you think that will be beneficial to maybe go to your team meeting, or if there are CPs here that, they like to have a little chat that I can explain to the nurses and to the receptionists about what we do, and a little more in detail about the consultations, because if they are speaking with the patients, will be good that they understand what we do. The service is very easy, very simple, but it's better to have this little chat. Please, you have my information in the slides, so feel free to get in touch and we can discuss how we can support you as well.
We might put some of this information into the discharge lounge, which is where people, we have people waiting for transport usually in a discharge area. So that will be a good.
Yeah, exactly. I can see a question from P.O. Sullivan. Do you think you'll get as much traction in the private rented sector as other sectors in terms of take-up of grants? Simple answer is it is very difficult to get private rented sector to take up the grants, particularly those that are in the rented sector. Sorry, exactly what you said in the question, apologies. So because the grants normally require landlord contributions, so like the Green Homes Grant, they're not so willing to go forward because they don't want to go through the costs. There is another piece of legislation that came out a couple of years ago called the Minimum Energy Efficiency Standards, which now is being enforced, which means that landlords need to make sure that their properties are minimum EPC-E. This regulation is due to tighten to, I think, C for domestic properties by 2030. So even though we are trying to get them on board with all these grants and get them prepared, because the sooner they retrofit, the easier it will be in the future. It's very, very difficult, even for social landlords. It's very difficult to find the money for them and budget for it right now.
Just a quick about retrofit. What does that practically mean, retrofit?
So it's like you take an existing building and you swap out all the old stuff and new stuff, but you keep the structure.
Okay, so the heating and that's a huge amount of work.
It is. Speaking from experience for our own council stock, it is a battle to do it in the correct order and make sure that we have all of the resources. So with retrofit, you are supposed to really take a fabric first approach. So making sure you've done all the insulation first before swapping out your boiler for something like an air source heat pump or a ground source heat pump, because the way that those work is that they're very, very slow and they try to keep it at a constant temperature all the time. So if you've got a leaky house, then it's not going to be very, very useful at all, and it will be expensive to heat if your house can't retain it.
Great, that was really interesting, and thank you very much for doing it for us. I'll send you a link to the recording.
Perfect.
Thank you. Could I also have 5 minutes just to plug a couple of things from Hammersmith and Fulham events that we've got?
Yes, you can.
Thank you. So just to finish off. Oh, apologies. Just wanted to go to here. So Hammersmith and Fulham Council, we've got a Climate Connects newsletter that goes out monthly. We would love it if you could sign up and see all the wonderful things we're doing at the council, and also see what our community members and organisations are doing as well. We're also sharing what we've been reading and watching recently, so lots of documentaries, podcasts, books and such, and any future events that we're holding, such as the Climate Carnival. So if you have any time next week, or if you're interested in seeing what kind of events we're holding, this is in the lead up to COP26, of course. We've got lots and lots of events, so it's a mix of webinars and in-person events. There's things like dance classes, open houses, and we've got breakfast briefings every single day on specific themes. So on Monday, it's all about buildings. So again, if you want to come and find out what the council's doing and what the community is doing, this is a great opportunity, and we would love to see you there. The sign-up link is just here in the bottom left, so when you get the PowerPoint, please, I encourage you to take a look. We've got about 55 events and counting, so yeah, I'm sure there's something for everybody. So that's it. Again, here's the referral details, and if you do want to get in contact with us, our email addresses are here. So yeah, that's it. Thanks, Karim.